All right. I'm going to share my screen. So I did send you a flash drive.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing is Google, the Google Drive has changed their security settings so much over the last few months. So originally it has been so easy for me to share a link with teachers on our Google Drive to get what they need. And now they have to send me an email to get permission, even though they have the link, which says anybody that has this link can look at your stuff. So we've had mixed success with trying to pull off those the Google Drive to let the school go on and have it uploaded. It's like, I think there's a better chance that will work at this school. However, over the last, couple weeks when we've had school programs, the flash drive has worked a little better because Wi-Fi has been spotty. But then in another school, PowerPoint didn't work well. So the presenter ended up having to do a screenshot of the PDF, which obviously you can't watch a video that way, but she made it work. But the flash drive should work. So, when you get there, I would just, test the videos, make sure their audio is working, that sort of thing.
Okay, maybe we'll do that the day before and make sure things are going to work.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. I have way too many screens.
I'm the same way.
So here is the Google Drive that you should have access to. If you can't open one of these, let me know and I can make you an editor. It worries me because if you make any changes, it changes it for everybody.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to click on this K-3 program here. And of course, now I have to remind myself what the intent was for your program. Make sure we got the right one.
So I don't know about that part. You and Teresa kind of took care of that. Yeah. I'm not sure what they're studying and why they asked for this program, but
let's see.
I'm excited about it.
It's both. So primary and intermediate. So I can show you both.
Okay.
Of course, you are welcome to use the one program for all the grades. It's not like they already know all of this information. Hopefully they do, but that doesn't mean they do.
Chances are slim.
Yeah. I mean, I've had high school family consumer science teachers use some of this in their classrooms. So.
Okay.
You will also see, I have that notes page. I think I sent you a hard copy.
Yep, we got it.
As well. And I'm going to pull that up. Just so. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, Teresa may tell you, we suggest that we get at least 30 minutes with the kids. 30 to 40 minutes makes it a little easier to get through the program, and you can, take your time. But we've also been told, it's like you got 20, you got to make it work in 20. So you can leave things out if that is the case.
Okay.
But as far as the Kentucky academic standards go for both primary social studies and career studies, they mirror each other almost exactly. And for those younger grades, it's about knowing what our needs are, things that we need to survive and have a better quality of life, and what jobs or roles are in your community. and then how they meet those needs. So that's kind of the overreaching theme of this presentation. And then of course, kind of what jobs a farmer does, what they need to know. So we try to, focus a little more on that career aspect.
Well,
But
it's funny that we're doing this now because I just did the 4-H dollars and cents program with them. And I don't know if you know what that is.
yes,
But,
awesome.
okay. So we just did that. And some of them, had to come back and ask for another job to help maintain and take care of things. So this is going to work out great. We did need them once too. So this is going to be good.
Well, then this could be just a refresher. Make sure it's like, hey, were you paying attention?
Yes, I love it. This is great.
So I've got, just introduce them, tell you where you're from. I'm here to talk about how we get our most important needs to live. And it's like, do you know what we need and where they come from? So this, when you hit the slideshow, it's animated. So as you click the space bar, they'll pop up. So
Okay.
you're welcome to ask them if they know that our needs before you click them, or if they're kind of having trouble, you can kind of click through them. But air comes up first, water, food. So obviously those are our essential needs, and clothing and shelter. Of course, always worry, are there those kids that, don't have a good place to live, or, enough food to eat? So I don't know what your experience is with that, but.
Have you been to Southeastern Kentucky much?
Not a whole lot, a few times.
Oh, well, our needs are great. Every kiddo in our county is on free lunch. It used to be free or reduced. They're all free now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty sad.
Yeah. Well, gosh,
situations.
even our county has now gone to all free and reduced lunch.
I mean, just like even, housing stuff it's pretty sad for the most part, wouldn't you say, Kelly? Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah, it's pretty sad for the most part, Jennifer.
Well, you can choose how to word that as delicately. You hope. I mean, I feel we have the society now that tries to provide basic needs for most people. If they know that there's a need there, and it's not affordable, that, hopefully everybody in the community is working together to meet those needs. But I think, and then the next part of this is, where do these things come from? Well, they come from our earth. Obviously the air and the water are things that are in our world, but we also use our resources in our earth to provide food and building resources that we use. All of those come from the world around us and our communities. And it's a lot of people that have to work together to make these things, to produce these things that we need on a regular basis. So here we've got, this nice little graphic of, and it kind of dictates where, the largest kind of portion of Kentucky is dedicated to these crops and livestock and resources. Obviously, Eastern Kentucky has huge timber resources, so there's a huge focus there. Now, that doesn't mean that, we don't have farms all over Kentucky, but, there's a concentration of certain things.
Yep.
Here's where, well, it's definitely our farmland that helps us produce the food that we need, along with the sun and water and soil, and the space to produce, that we're able to grow food that we can enjoy and to make us healthy, and it satisfies our basic needs. Now we call the science of growing food, we call that agriculture, or you may know that as farming. And it's everything that is involved in producing food and renewable resources. So you might have seen equipment. Of course, they may not see combines in Eastern Kentucky, uh, but
No.
western part of the state, they might see, really large farm equipment that harvest crops. Agriculture is about raising and taking care of our livestock, growing food, even preparing our food that we eat. And there are a lot of jobs that are involved in producing our food. And can you tell me the person that grows our food? Do you know what that person is called? And hopefully they know it's a farmer.
Oh, how cool. That's one of our ag agents now. I was like, well, boys, that's Will.
Will is an agriculture agent?
Yes, in Clay County.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he just got hired about 5 or 6 months ago, but yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Oh, he was in my ag leadership program class.
Yeah.
He is a smart fella.
He is so smart. He's a very nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice. Oh, well, I'm happy for him. Okay, so
Sorry,
face. Yay.
We got off track.
One of the things we ask them, it's like, can you tell me what a farmer looks like? Because a lot of times they think they're an older gentleman with overalls and a hat and straw sticking out of their mouth. We're trying to get away from that stereotype, but we can say, farmers can be any age. They can be male or female. They can come from all different parts of our community. They can have different interests. They can grow different things. But it takes a lot of farmers to produce all the food that we need. And then we ask them, so if you click it, it's a farmer. That's who produces our food. And it may take you to kind of go through this a couple times, but sometimes I forget myself all the little animations I've got in here. So how do farmers grow our food and what do they need to know? So here's kind of the career connection as far as, the types of things that farmers need to know to grow our food. But you can also make this kind of fun and interactive. What we do is we get a few props. And sometimes we invite a child to come up and we kind of dress them up with all the kind of the things that they need to be a farmer. We'll get a hat, we'll get some rain boots, sometimes gloves. We've used a tractor steering wheel. You don't have to do that because it gets kind of heavy. An umbrella, okay. Like a stethoscope or something related to animal care. A phone. We'll hold up our phone now. We used to have a calculator, but now that's in your pocket
on your phone.
Yeah. So kind of just reminding them kind of the things that farmers have, the knowledge they have to have. So it's like, and the big question, it's like, do you think that farmers have to go to school to learn how to grow food? And of course we know that knowledge can be passed down to family members, but today a lot of farmers go to school. So yes, everyone must learn from someone, and we rely on experts to help us, teach us the best way to grow crops and raise animals, even if that expert is a family member or a friend. But many of today's farmers continue learning after they graduate high school. And then it's like you bring up the volunteer to tell us, tell everyone, all the things that farmers need to grow food. So this does look a little different than what the notes have, because I felt that kids needed a few different visuals so they could actually, kind of be reminded the things that the farmers deal with. So number one is weather, and then you can put their hat on to protect them from the sun. You can put on the rain boots, you can give them the umbrella. And it's like, definitely weather is one science a farmer needs to understand. They need to know what plants need, what's in the soil, oh, I'm on the wrong slide. Sorry.
It's okay.
Don't do that. All of the weather, it cannot be controlled. So farmers can't control if it rains or not, if it snows or not, if it's too cold. And they have to deal with, temperature and wind and rain, and all of that affects the way that we care for our crops and our livestock. And usually one of the first things that a farmer does when they wake up in the morning is look at the weather report. What am I going to have to deal with for today? And they need to prepare for that. So if it doesn't rain, the crops and grass won't grow. So they might need to go, turn on the water on their crops if they have that. If it's too cold, they need to make sure the animals are comfortable. And it's all about that preparation and doing the best we can with the elements that are provided to us. So at this point, they got the umbrella, they got the hat, they got the boots, holding on to all that. The next thing our farmers need to know is science and math. They need to know what plants need, what's in the soil. Soil can be tested. You can talk to them about that's a service that the extension service provides. They need to know how to deal with pests like insects and weeds. But today's farmer is also connected to this information all the time. And then you can hold up your phone. It's like, we have these little computers in our pockets now. And it's really cool that now the farmers can check things on their phone. They can check things around their farm on their phone. And in fact, technology makes producing food a lot easier and safer. We have learned so much in the thousands of years we've been growing food, how to make it more efficient and safer and easier to grow more food with less work and less resources. Here you're welcome to talk about maybe something that's used in your area. Of course, Eastern Kentucky is now known for having a lot of greenhouses. There's that really big one in Moorhead where everything's under roof, where they're going to have less worry of what the weather's doing and pests. But obviously there's some cost involved in that. But even as easy as candling an egg to make sure that what's in there is what's supposed to be in there and it's safe to put on the store shelf. But we can monitor cows and know how much they're standing up and laying down and how much milk they're giving us. All those types of things help farmers do their job a lot easier. The next big thing is knowing how to take care of our animals. And then, you can hand them the stethoscope or a syringe or something like that. They need to know if they can take care of a problem that happens, with their animals, know what to look for when the animals are sick. And then if it's a big enough problem, they'll know when to call the veterinarian, who provides a specialized service because they know everything about the animals. So also, just being able to recognize the things that the animals need and when something's not quite right is super important because they want to take care of their animals all the time. The next big thing we need to know is business. So at this point, you could hand the child like a briefcase. We've used a necktie. That might be a little gender, specific if we do that, but hand them something related to business. Farmers need to be able to talk to their customers to know what they want. If they need something, they work with others who provide those things, whether it's building a fence or a barn, or if they have to buy seed or things that they need to produce food. They want to make sure they get it at a good price. And they also manage their employees and their budgets. So kind of tying that into dollars and cents, they have to have an idea of how much they're going to earn and, know how much, they can pay for things to provide that food. Farmers may also need to talk to our lawmakers so they can do business. Farming is just so much more than growing food. And then lastly, we know that farming is really hard work. And you have an option if you want to hand them a wrench or a hammer, something else that you can give them. you know, but don't be afraid of the hard work. Everybody needs different jobs, but if, digging your hands in the dirt doesn't appeal to you, there are so many other ways that you can help farmers. And we have, a lot of those opportunities in our community as well. We need bankers and electricians and construction workers and truck drivers. All those things help us move food around the community and help us produce food. Now, in the notes, it talks about a couple games that could be played. You really have to have a lot of help to do those. So I did not send that your way, but I did send you the linking farm to table game, which this next section goes kind of hand in hand with.
So could you send the games? And if I did a day camp this summer where I had a few days to work with them, that we could do the games and stuff then, would you care to share that?
No, not at all. Not at all. Our egg relay race involves stuffed chickens. We have stuffed animal chickens and eggs and baskets, and they have to run things back and forth. And then the other game's really easy too. It's just some cards. But yeah, I could send that for sure.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to transition. It's like, all right, so let's actually think about the work a farmer does to help us get a pizza. Oops. I'm clicking on the wrong screen, which you all will not have this problem.
We probably will, but it's okay. You're doing great.
So let's make a pizza. It's like, okay, we're not going to make a real pizza, but we can talk about all the ingredients that we're going to need and where they come from. And you can ask, what do you think is the most important ingredient in a pizza? And it's up to you how you manage this. In the past, I have let them, raise their hands. It's like, what do you think's the best in a pizza? If you get into letting everybody shout out answers, which I have done, sometimes it's hard to bring them back down.
Yeah.
So that's me not being in a classroom all the time.
Okay.
So you can call on them. It's like, what do you think is the most important ingredient in pizza? And they're going to say, the crust and the cheese and pepperoni and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, and you can say, this is up to you. You can get some soil and put it in a little bowl if you want, and show them. And you could say, I have the most ingredient right here, or you can just click on the PowerPoint and say, actually, the most important ingredient is soil. And they're going to say, ew, gross. I don't eat that on my pizza. And we're going to say, well, why is it, why is soil important in making a pizza? Because it's the first ingredient that we need to grow the food that we make the pizza with. So we need soil to grow the wheat. We need soil to grow the vegetables and the tomatoes and all those things.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And then you can ask them, what else do plants need to grow? And your youngest students may not know this, but hopefully by second grade, they have a pretty good idea that plants need sun and water and air, and these are things that are found in the environment, but the farmer has to use their knowledge and all of our resources to actually grow the food. All right, so the crust is our first layer of the pizza. How do we get crust? And they may or may not know. Well, we actually need wheat. So here's a picture of what wheat looks like in the field, which they may have never seen before. Farmers will plant wheat here in Kentucky in the fall of the year. It protects the soil over winter, and then when it warms up in the spring, the wheat starts to grow again, and usually by June it's harvested, and they take the wheat to the mill. But we're going to be able to show you all of this with this really fun video.
We're a wheat farming family.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're preparing the soil. Fertilizer makes the wheat grow. Gotta spread the fertilizer. We're planting the seeds. Eight more weeks to grow.
Wheat is tall, let's cut it off.
We're harvesting now. Time to go to market.
Yeah, so that gets them really excited. They really like that video.
Yeah, that's cute. They'll like that.
All right, you got to push the space bar, not the clicker. So what's our next? What do we need next for our pizza? Well, we need tomato sauce. Where does the sauce come from? And if you say tomato sauce, hopefully they'll know tomatoes, but you can just say sauce if you want to not give them too much of a clue. So it's like, that's right. We need tomatoes. Well, where do tomatoes come from? You know, well, they have to be grown. Now you can choose, you might look at your time. You may want to practice this ahead of time.
Okay.
This is obviously not a live video, but I set it up to make the kids think that we are actually visiting her farm and going to talk to her. Now, when it's on the flash drive, this is black. So using it on the flash drive may actually work a little better than on here because, like I said, she's not even on there yet. So you kind of have to practice your timing here. And you can say, we're actually going to go visit a Kentucky tomato farmer right now and see how she grows tomatoes. I'd like to introduce you to Suzanne White of Cecil Farms.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Suzanne, can you tell me how you grow your tomatoes?
Well, we're standing right here in our greenhouse right now where we have a lot of tomato plants growing here. We start our seeds. We do several different cycles throughout the year, throughout the seasons, but we start seeds in December and January in little trays, and then we transplant them into bigger trays. And the plants, when the plants get about 10 to 12 inches tall, we transplant them either into the greenhouse or into a field where then they grow and become bigger plants like what I have around me here. And then they'll produce regular tomatoes or cherry tomatoes.
Why do you use a greenhouse?
So a greenhouse for Kentucky, because the weather here, tomatoes are a fruit and tomatoes like heat. Fruits like heat to ripen and produce. And so in Kentucky, we have a really good summer season for outdoor tomatoes, but to get a longer season, to have local tomatoes in the spring or tomatoes in the fall, we use a greenhouse because it's going to hold and contain that some of that sunlight and heat that we need to help these fruits grow in those seasons that aren't as hot outside.
Well, how do you know when to harvest the tomatoes?
So it all depends on, we pick based on different specs, but I mean, when a tomato is an orangey red, we are ready to pull it off the vine. And it also comes off the vine rather easily when it is ready. You don't have to work too hard to get it off the vine when it is ripe and ready. Now, a tomato will also continue to ripen once it's off the vine and sitting in a box or on the table or in packaging. And so it, you have to kind of think for that and have a place for it to go and be ready to move it when we pick it.
What is your favorite part about being a farmer?
I love, my favorite thing is starting the seeds and starting a new life cycle and watching the plants grow. It's like watching babies and kids and people grow. But every year I get to start all over with thousands and thousands of plants and new seeds. I also just love being outside. I love my hands in the dirt.
Thank you so much for visiting with us.
Thank you. This is so fun. Y'all have a great day.
Awesome.
All right, so that like I said, you can choose if you want to use that or not. You could easily skip through it, or you could just, kind of talk about that. So our next layer is cheese. Where does cheese come from? Like I said, you can ask them, see if they know that. That's right, it's milk. And where does milk come from? And hopefully they knows it's from cows.
The store is what they say.
The store, I know it. Well, how does it get to the store? You can always say, well, how does it get to the store?
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't say that it just comes from an almond.
I know. I know.
Well, let's see how we get milk to turn it into cheese. Well, there's your cow picture. And here's another one of those cute little videos.
Love it.
We're the Roby family. We've been farming for 6 generations.
It does show the birth of a calf. So I'm just going to warn you if they're paying really close
I'm
attention.
the herdsman. I take care of the cows. We grow alfalfa, corn, and soybeans. It all goes into the feed. We milk 1,000 cows 3 times every day. Each cow gives us 12 gallons of milk a day.
We've done our part, so the milk goes off to the cheese factory.
Basically, all cheese goes through the same process. We test the milk.
We cook it. We check the cheese. cut the cheese.
They'll love that.
We press the cheese. We package the cheese.
We ship it out. Cheese is good.
Eat cheese.
Mayo con queso.
Mangez du fromage. C'est bon.
So both of those are in Kentucky, that cheese factory and that dairy. So that's a good one. So you can talk about what else goes on a pizza. Onions and vegetables. Obviously, they come from gardens, and then pepperoni or any meat that's on our pizza come from livestock. It's interesting. I think a lot of teachers kind of shy away from the whole meat conversation. And we had I went to a local food summit last week, and there was a lady in there, and I think she was involved in the education system, but she's like, y'all need to find a good way to tell kids that animals actually, that meat actually comes from animals, and there's a harvest or, a slaughter process. She's like, they think they poop it out. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
or
It's not
so
explained to them. It's not, but she's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've had adults that do not realize that, they think that the steaks can be taken off and they'll grow back, or chicken wings are okay to eat because they grow back, that kind of thing. But there is a harvest process. And I think where we're really trying to help kids understand, it's like, yes, there is a loss of life there, but not only are we getting food, but here's all the other things that, livestock, provide to us, and just the medical contributions alone.
Yeah.
That those are super important.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here is where you can use those linking, that linking farm to table game. So let's try to make a hamburger. So using everything that they've learned, you can actually hand out all of those cards. And if you have one classroom, you should be able to hand most all of them out. There's 24, 28 cards. There's 24. Hand them all out. And the reason that we're going to make a hamburger is that there's pretty much a way to get everything except the chicken breast. There's everything, everything can be related to this hamburger. So you can have the hamburger card that lists the components kind of in front of the room. You give the kids all their cards. It's like, okay, what do we need first? We need a bun. Well, who remembers where? So what's the bun made out of? Does anybody know what a bun is made out of? Well, it's wheat. So who has the wheat, or the flour? I think the flour is in there. So we need flour to make the bun, and then the wheat to make the flour. So you can actually have them come up, and of course, with the COVID regulations, they're in a classroom, they're close together. But if you want them to link arms, they can, or they can just stand next to each other. And it's like, all right, so to make the bun, so the kid with the bun comes up, the kid with the flour comes up, the kid with the wheat comes up.
Okay.
And then, kind of for all the components, you can do that. And to get the pig up there, if you want to put bacon on your hamburger, you can. Put cheese on it, then you have, a reminder of where we get our cheese. But the animal components are a way to get the corn and the soybeans and the hay up there, because they have to eat. That food has to be produced as well. If you want to put mayo on your hamburger, then you get eggs in your chicken up there. So like I said, I think one of the few things that doesn't come up is, the spaghetti and the chicken breast and spaghetti. And some of those real specific things may not come up, but you can kind of pull some of those out if you want to, if they're not going to be used, and hand them around. That may take 10 minutes, maybe not quite that long. Depends on how well they are participating and thinking about things. But that's really the program there. You are welcome to make this your own, whatever is on. Like I said, what I have here is a little different on the PowerPoint. You're welcome to make modifications to that on your flash drive, however you see fit. If you have, a local farmer that you want to showcase, feel free.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm gonna just show you the other one real quick. So if you have 4th and 5th graders and you kind of say, you know what, I need to do a little something different for them. I think they enjoy the program. I mean, we've used that program for K through 5. We used it for many years. It used to be like we used to go and do a huge assembly in front of kids. And we had like a cooking set. We would dress up like a chef, kind of make it a cooking show, but we also had a talking animatronic horse that we would, go back and forth with, and he would kind of help tell the story. So, I mean, 4th and 5th graders, they enjoyed that. They may have known a little more of what they were learning than some of the younger kids did, but if you want to use that for the older kids, that is fine. But we do have a let's see, another program also in there that's for kind of 4th through 8th. And this is more about our natural resources. So they get to play the game right away. And you can first ask them, where does all the things that we need to live, where does that come from? And, we've got, footballs and hairbrushes and medicine and, chewing gum, all these things. Where does it come from? So that's where you can set out those cards, the factory, the store, the nature, and the farm. You can set those around the room. You can hand out all those cards, give them a couple minutes. There's 80 of those cards. So each kid may get 2 or 3. Say, first instinct, where did this come from? Where did this product come from? And, then you have them all come sit down. And what I would do, you want to, instead of saying, okay, these are the things that are wrong, I would start with the things that are right. So I would go to the farm section first and kind of give them a pat on the back. It's like, oh, I'm so glad that you knew that eggs came from a farm. Now, hopefully that's the case. And you may need to kind of, sort through it and see what they did. So hopefully they knew a few things, like the milk and the eggs and, but then we're going to see that, some of that other stuff, they don't really have a clue where it comes from. So I would start with the farm and then go to nature. Hopefully, anything that made out of wood, maybe they've put there. And I think by this time, the light bulb goes off. It's like, oh, that thing that I put over in the store, the factory, probably should have been in one of those categories. So then as you move to the store, the factory, it's like, okay, so what is the core ingredient of this item. And you have a list of, where those things came from, but it's like, the Cheetos, let's, say Cheetos. Cheetos are made out of corn and cheese. And, where do those things come from? Yes, the ingredients ended up at the factory for them to make that, but ultimately it came from the farm. The batteries have farm ingredients. They also have nature ingredients. So I think the big takeaway is that everything that we have, whether it comes that way naturally or it's something that has to be manufactured, the ingredients came from the earth and our farms in some way. Even metal is mined out of the earth. So, and then you can get into real discussion about all these, solar panels and all this green energy. It's like, all that stuff has to be made somehow. And then what happens to it when you're done with it and it quit working? Are you going to be able to reuse it, recycle it and make new stuff? So, all of that has an impact on our world and our environment. So then, it kind of goes into, everything that we use, all of our stuff comes from our world, comes from our communities. There are people in our communities that help create these things. They get a reminder about what our needs are as well. And you can kind of, do the same spiel with, sun, water, soil, and our farmland, our land and forest, we can meet our basic needs. You can, talk about Eastern Kentucky there. And then, we call that science of growing food and other natural goods agriculture. And depending on where you live, agriculture may look very different. So, here in Eastern Kentucky, where forests and coal, I don't know, Letcher County, are they still mining?
A little bit, not much.
A little bit, yeah. Well, with all the forest resources, obviously the big focus is going to be there, but, there may be smaller farms, provide, cattle, there's cattle in every county.
Yeah.
So that's something that they may be able to think about. And lots of gardens. Do y'all have a farmer's market?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a nice farmer's market.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
So obviously there's agriculture there in their county.
Yeah.
Then we kind of go into, kind of a little history lesson. So, how did agriculture kind of evolve in Kentucky? When the Native Americans were here and before the Europeans settled, most of Kentucky was forest or woodland. And you can kind of, point out where Letcher County is. And you can see how heavily forested it was even back then. We have a few areas of what, they considered prairie, where livestock or not livestock, but grazing animals would roam. And then all of this yellow is wetlands. But it's changed quite a bit over the years. But those first Americans in the area, they knew how to utilize the resources. So they hunted, they fished, they grew crops like greens, squash, sunflowers, and then they eventually learned how to grow corn and soybeans, which they shared knowledge with the early settlers. And then those early settlers came to Kentucky and they started growing some of those crops. They brought crops with them from Europe. They brought livestock with them to raise. And they were meeting their needs. Usually it's like every family was growing food to meet their own needs. And the first commercial agriculture in Kentucky, where they would grow a lot of a crop and sell it, was focused around tobacco and hemp, because those crops were in high demand in Europe. And Kentucky has been known, it's still known for growing tobacco. And we've made an effort to try to regrow hemp industry in Kentucky. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's kind of fallen flat.
Yeah.
You can mention it, but it was a first important crop for Kentucky farmers. And then we ask, what factors made Kentucky an appealing place to live? And you can really, ask them what they think makes, Kentucky a good place to live. This is actually a picture of Powell County. So you can see those, hills and mountains there in the background, but you do have some flat spots, where you can have some farming operations going on. The first thing is climate. We have a moderate climate, warm in the summer, cool in the winter. Kentucky also, we get plenty of rain, 40 to 50 inches of rain per year, compared to, places out west that, get less than 20. And, the growing season for most of our crops in Kentucky is between April and October. However, with the use of greenhouses and high tunnels and things, we can kind of extend that. So using technology, we can grow more food in a longer period of time. But if you have a garden, it's productive April, October. Sometimes you wait till after May to start planting certain things. Water is also super important. We talked about the rainfall, which is part of the climate, but we have a lot of water here in Kentucky, 13 major river basins. There's 90,000 miles of streams. We have more navigable miles of water than any other state except Alaska, which I think is pretty cool. And considering Alaska is huge, I haven't done the math to see how much bigger Alaska is than Kentucky, but I mean, Alaska is huge. So we have a lot of water resources, which is necessary for growing crops, raising livestock, and also taking care of our own needs. We also, most of our communities in Kentucky, there's not a place that there's not some water. So, all of our communities have a good water source. And we have like over 3 trillion gallons of water reserves. And just kind of a side note, for if you want to know this, is like we only use like 3 to 4% of the water in Kentucky on an annual basis. So even when we had a drought and everybody was really worried, all of a sudden farmers were putting irrigation systems in. They're like, oh no, don't be doing that. It's like, we're good. We got all kinds of groundwater and water reserves. So something that may be really close to the kids in Eastern Kentucky is we have all of these energy resources in Kentucky, and even the early settlers learned that Kentucky had a lot of coal in the ground that could be mined and used for energy. Later found out that we had oil and gas underground as well. Kentucky's the 5th largest coal producing state. And we're 9th in the nation for the lowest electricity price of any state. So that makes it appealing for businesses to come here and operate as well. And living expenses tend to be lower in Kentucky. Something we may not know about is all the rocks and ore minerals in Kentucky. There's a lot of mining for these things. Limestone's a big one. A lot of things that industrial businesses use can be mined here in Kentucky. A lot of clay, sand and gravel. But what you may not know is that Kentucky used to be mined for salt and iron, not anymore, as we're not abundant in those things, but the early settlers did mine those things previously. And then our forests are super important. 47% of Kentucky's land is forested, so almost half. We know how important it is to Eastern Kentucky. However, there is not a county in Kentucky that is not impacted by forest resources in some way. There's a lot of furniture and cabinetry businesses in Kentucky, a lot of sawmills. There's a lot of paper produced in Kentucky, which that was a surprise to me. So this is like a $13 billion industry. You don't have to pass that along, but it's really important to Kentucky for sure. And then lastly, our farmland. So the other half that's not urban or cities and parks and things like that is farmland. So you can say that, I always say I feel so blessed to live in Kentucky where we have all of this land that we can use in so many different ways to meet our needs. We're pretty self-sufficient here in Kentucky, or we could be even more self-sufficient than we are now. Of course, because of our climate, there are certain things that we don't grow here, such as bananas and oranges, things that you have to have a more tropical climate. But we do meet a lot of our needs. So here in Kentucky, these are our top crops and livestock that we raise. Kentucky's always been known for horses. And I'd say probably by next year, horses may outrun the chickens, because the last probably 8 to 10 years, chickens have been number one as far as bringing income into the state. It has reduced some. Horses are going back up. They're kind of neck and neck now. I think horse sales were actually higher than the broiler chickens were for the first time in a long time last year. So both of those are super important, along with corn and soybeans, and then beef cattle. So those are the top 5. Hay is also super important in Kentucky to feed all of our livestock. We're really good at growing grass here in Kentucky. Tobacco is still important, even though demand is down. And then our dairies are still important in Kentucky. Kentucky has varying regions, and resources for energy, goods, and food. They vary depending on the location. So you can remind them again of, those things in Eastern Kentucky and how that differs in Western Kentucky. So this little map kind of shows the top kind of resource and farm products in each of the different areas. So you see a lot of little coal carts and trees over here in Eastern Kentucky. And then you also see some here in Western Kentucky, but most of your agriculture is going to be in the Western 2/3 of the state. Most of our grain crops are grown in the western part of the state, where land is much flatter. And that's where your chickens and pigs are going to be, because they're going to be closer to their food source. So that's kind of the economics of it is, the resources, what resources are available, what markets are available is going to determine what products are going to be produced. And then here's a map of what Kentucky looks like today. Obviously, it's changed over the last couple hundred years. These red areas are urban centers. You've got Louisville and Lexington. Here's up near Cincinnati, Ashland up here. But we don't have as many forests and woodlands. It's not as heavy as it was. Obviously, some of that's been converted to cropland, which is this kind of olive green, and then also pasture. So we've converted a lot of our forests to places where we can grow food, but we still do have a lot of woodlands and forests as well. So we're able to meet lots of needs. And this black is the mined lands. Now we really do have to care for our farmland. We've seen this change to be able to meet the needs of our people, and we also need our forests. So all of that is super important, but we need to learn how to care for our farmland in the best way possible. Our population is growing, but our space that we have is limited. So we have a lot of challenges. We have, climate challenges, having enough rain, and, the health of the soil is important, what pests we have. This is where you could, if you feel you have time and you want to go through this, there are actually videos on YouTube that do this. There's several where you take an apple and say, this is the earth. This represents the earth, and you can cut away at the apple that represents, what our world has to offer as far as farmland. So say, imagine this is our earth. How much of our earth is water? Well, you can take away 3/4 right there. So, we've got a quarter that's land. And so I'm going to cut half of that. Let me see if I can get this to go. Yeah, there we go. We're going to cut that in half. And that represents the North and South poles, desert, swamps, and high rocky mountains. So already now we're down to 1/8 of land because we cannot grow food in those areas. I'm going to cut it in half again. So then 1/16 is forested. And we know that we shouldn't cut down too many of our forests because they produce so much oxygen that we need for us. And that's super important. Also, it's habitat for wildlife. It removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So we've got 1/16 left. We're going to cut it in half again. And this is the land that is too rocky, too wet, too steep, too cold, poor soil. And we're not able to grow good food like fruits and vegetables on this land. So we call this marginal land. So we're down to 1/32 of the Earth's surface is available to grow our food on. And of course, there's a demand for land for buildings and highways and all those things. So do we need to protect this, 1/32? And some folks actually peel off the peel because that represents the topsoil. So you've got this tiny little sliver of this apple, and how do we do that? How do we protect it? So you can talk about that technology again, how technology is super important today, helps us do our job better, helps us use fewer resources than we once did to grow the same amount of food or more food. And then this video here kind of sums all of that up. I'll just show you a few minutes of it.
And now, some food for thought about careers. In the past 50 years, the world population has doubled. And there's an entire industry that exists to feed, clothe, and provide for them. 23 million jobs in agriculture. That's 54,400 jobs a year. And there's only 29,400 college graduates trained to fill them. That's 25,000 jobs per year, ripe for the picking. And they may surprise you. You see, agriculture is more than just farming. It's thousands of careers in science, IT, marketing, education, procurement, finance, and more, all with worldwide importance. For instance, computers and tractors, sprayers, and combines collect lots of data to help farmers raise more food using less land, water, and other resources. So agriculture needs software developers, IS and IT specialists, computer scientists, and engineers. Seed companies are working.
So, I mean, it obviously it talks about all the different jobs that are involved in producing our food in agriculture. So that's kind of a plea to the young people. It's like, hey, you may want to check into this because it's important. And of course, the governor right now is really into this ag tech thing. And, with all the greenhouses and indoor farming coming to Kentucky, they're really looking for ways to kind of encourage that. For kids to look into that as a career option. So that's kind of the takeaway here. Just how, what makes Kentucky unique, how it's changed, that sort of thing. How we can still build on that to grow our food. Again, if there's anything you want to, change, it takes, you may have to do this a couple times, and it's like, then get your kind of your groove. It's like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to say here. This is what I'm not going to say here. You get kids, some kids, they're always got their hand up. This, they got, do you have a question? No, they have a story to tell you.
Yeah.
Which sometimes that's good,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not. Can kind of take away from the presentation, but like I said, we use this one for 4th grade and up, but you're welcome to use the other one if that's easier. We did this because there's 5th grade really has that focus on social studies, and they're tested on social studies, and of course there's some science in there. What things do we need to grow food, the whole natural resources, that's big in 4th grade as well. So just trying to focus on those standards for those grades.
Okay.
I know we've been on here for an hour. So what do you have any questions? It may just be going through this like I said a couple times.
I don't have any questions right now. I'll see how it goes. We'll review before we go up there to do the program and things, but I think we're pretty good on it. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate that. Do you have questions, Callie? Okay, she's been taking notes over there for herself. So I love this stuff. I mean, it's my cup of tea because I am an ag major, and I'm all about the.
That was good.
Yeah,
You did a good job. Thank you.
I don't know if you can hear. Did you hear?
No, I thought I heard a thank you.
I said I enjoyed it and you did a good job. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate you all doing this. We tried to find some regional folks.
Yeah.
Because it's hard, on just a couple people trying to go in all the different places.
I get it.
So I appreciate you doing this. So whatever you need from me, I will send your way.
Awesome. Well, if you have other things that are requested and you can't get to, just ask. Always ask.
Okay.
Because I love this kind of stuff. Yeah, we'll do them for
Yeah,
sure.
I
We
love
love it. Anything that we can offer new to these kiddos and get them interested, we're all about it.
Okay. Well, I'll reach out to Teresa again. I could send
Okay.
them some like coloring books and stuff to hand out to the kiddos that day, something
Yep.
for them to take home.
Awesome.
And I'll
Sounds
send that
good.
directly to the school. So
Okay.
you don't have to fiddle with it.
Okay. That sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Let me
All
know
right.
if you have any more questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.